You know what's funny? My parents didn't show up to my graduation. Not a text, not a call, not even a good luck. But a week later? They suddenly remembered I existed. Not out of love. Not out of pride. But because they wanted money. $2,500 to be exact. And when I refused? They called the police on me. Yeah. My own parents tried to weaponize authority against me. Because I didn't pay an emotional tax they thought I owed. That was the moment I realized something harsh and painful. Sometimes the people who raise you aren't protecting you. They're programming you to obey, to feel guilty, to give. My name is Emily, and this is the story of how my parents ghosted the biggest moment of my life. And then tried to destroy me for choosing myself. Growing up, I heard the same lines over and over. Family is everything. Parents know best. You should be grateful. We raised you. Nobody ever finishes that sentence. They raised me, for what? Love? Or control? I didn't grow up poor. I grew up emotionally starved. Affection was a reward you earned. Approval was a tool they used. And success? Success wasn't mine. It was theirs, as long as they could take credit for it. Graduation morning felt like standing on a cliff. Everyone else had a safety net. I had silence. I kept checking my phone like some desperate little kid. Hoping for a miracle. Refreshing messages that would never come. Convincing myself. They'll show up. They have to show up. But hope has a cruel way of humiliating you sometimes. The only message I got was 5 words. We can't make it. Busy. Busy. Not we're proud of you. Not we love you. Just busy, like my life, my achievement, my moment. Was a minor inconvenience to them. Standing there in my gown, watching parents embrace their kids. I felt like I was watching a movie I didn't belong in. Everyone else got love, applause, tears. I got silence. A deep, suffocating silence that wrapped around my ribs like a belt. They called my name. People cheered. And somewhere in the middle of all that noise, I felt completely invisible. I clapped for myself. Not because I was proud. But because no one else would. After the ceremony? No restaurants, no family photos, no you did it. I clocked into my shift at the diner. Graduation dinner was cold fries in a break room. And a quiet bus ride home with a paper cap in my lap. And then, the phone rang. Funny timing, right? Suddenly, their voices were sweet, warm, familiar. Like they could pretend the last 24 hours didn't happen. Hey sweetie, listen, we need $2,500. Just like that. No, how did it go? No, we're sorry we missed it. Straight to the transaction. When I told them I couldn't. That I had rent, bills, student loans. My mom's tone snapped like a rubber band. Stop being dramatic. Real family helps each other. Real family. The same real family that couldn't help me by showing up. For one single important moment in my life. And that's the irony. They didn't fail me by accident. They failed me because showing up didn't benefit them. But money? Money woke them right up. I used to think saying no was selfish. But in that moment, I realized. Saying no was survival. And when I finally did? Everything changed. When I said no. Everything changed. The sweet, software family tone? Gone. Suddenly, it felt like I was on trial. Why can't you help your own parents? After everything we did for you? You think you're better than us now because you graduated? They weren't talking to me. They were attacking me. Like my entire worth existed only in what I could give them. And what hurt wasn't their words. I was used to their guilt trips. It was what they didn't say. Not once did they ask. Are you okay? How's work? Do you need anything? No pride. No love. No curiosity about my life. Just need. Just demand. Just ownership. And the thing is, they didn't even need the money. They had savings, retirement checks, more resources than me. They didn't want help. They wanted control. They wanted to remind me that no matter how far I came, I didn't get to feel free. But that night, something snapped. Years of tiny cuts finally bled enough to drown the fear inside me. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was realizing the truth I never wanted to face. That I was nothing more than an ATM with a heartbeat to them. So I breathed in, steady and shaky. And I said the words that scared me more than failing ever did. I can't. And I won't. Then I hung up. I stood in my tiny apartment. Cheap walls, flickering bulb, second-hand sofa. And for the first time I felt rich. Not with money. With freedom. With self-respect. I thought the worst they'd do was yell. Or block my number. Or guilt text me for weeks. But 2 days later, there was a knock on my door. Someone shouting my name. Firm. Cold. Official. I opened it. And saw 2 police officers standing there. My parents had actually called the police on me. Their own child. And in that moment, I realized blood doesn't make family. Behavior does. And mine? Mine chose revenge over love. When I opened the door and saw 2 officers standing there, I honestly thought they had the wrong apartment. I mean, what crime did I commit? Graduating alone? Surviving without parents? Refusing to hand over my entire paycheck like a good obedient child? But no. They were here for me. Are you Emily Harris? Yes? We received a welfare concern call about you. A welfare check. My parents told the police I was a danger to myself. Because I wouldn't give them money. Let that sink in. The same people who didn't show up for the most important day of my life suddenly cared about my well-being. Only when I stopped being profitable to them. I stood there in my socks, holding a mug of cheap instant coffee. Hair tied up, still in my diner uniform pants. While 2 strangers stepped into my tiny 1-bedroom apartment. To make sure I wasn't in crisis. They checked my kitchen counters. Glanced at my neatly made bed. Noticed my bookshelf stacked with textbooks I paid for myself. My planner filled with work shifts, grocery lists, rent reminders. And then one officer looked at me. Really looked. And asked quietly, "Are your parents controlling?" I laughed. A small, broken laugh. Not because it was funny. But because someone finally said the one thing I spent years choking on. Controlling? They didn't raise a daughter. They engineered a guilt machine. They trained me to put myself last, always. To believe love was something you earned by sacrificing yourself. The officers apologized and left. And when the door clicked shut, the silence was loud. But this time, it didn't feel empty. It felt clean. Sharp. Like a blade slicing through years of brain fog and emotional conditioning. I didn't cry. Not that night. I didn't feel sadness or shame. I felt anger. Pure, steady, focused anger. Not the kind that burns you from the inside. The kind that wakes you up. Because in that moment, I realized something brutal and honest. They didn't call for my safety. They called because they lost control. Because I broke the script. Because I finally said no and meant it. They wanted to scare me back into obedience. But they did the opposite. They set me free. For the first time in my life, I understood the truth. I never needed them. I never actually had them. All I ever had was myself. And finally, for the first time ever, that felt like enough. After the police left, I sat on my couch in complete silence. Not the empty kind. The awakening kind. My hands were shaking. Not from fear anymore, but from realization. From finally seeing the truth without fog, without guilt. Without the lie I'd been fed since childhood. If you're good enough, they'll love you. I spent my whole life chasing love. From people who only saw me as a backup wallet. A safety net, a resource. Not a daughter. I believed if I worked harder. If I earned more. If I smiled through pain. If I carried their disappointment like a duty. Maybe one day they'd say, "We're proud of you." But standing in that quiet apartment, I finally learned something brutal and freeing. You can't earn love. From people who love control more than they love you. So I made a decision. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just final. I blocked their numbers. I blocked every relative who told me to understand them. I deleted every guilt-laced voicemail. Every "you owe us." Every family sacrifices. Every manipulation disguised as concern. And then? Nothing. No lightning. No guilt storm. No world collapse. Just silence. Real silence. Silence that felt like oxygen. For the first time since I was a kid, I took a breath that didn't feel like permission. I worked double shifts. I studied certifications after midnight. I saved money like survival was muscle memory. I stopped chasing love. And started building a life. A year passed. I got promoted. I moved into a brighter apartment with windows that actually caught sunlight. I bought a real couch instead of a thrift store one. I made friends who clapped for me without expecting anything. Friends who showed up because they cared. Not because they needed something. Slowly. Brick by brick. I became someone I was proud of. And that's when they came back. Of course they did. Not with apologies. Not with accountability. Not with a "we see what we did, and we're sorry." No. They came back with the same script. Family doesn't abandon each other. You think you're too good for us now? You owe us. Only this time. Their words didn't land. They didn't feel sharp anymore. They felt small. Weak. Pathetic. Because the moment someone can't manipulate you, they lose all power over you. When people lose control, they rewrite history. They call abandonment sacrifice. They call abuse parenting. They call independence betrayal. But I didn't reply. Not once. Not ever again. My revenge wasn't screaming. It wasn't exposing them. It wasn't begging for closure. My revenge was peace. My revenge was becoming someone they could never break again. And if you're listening to this, and you feel that knot in your chest, that fear of choosing yourself, let me tell you something no one told me. Blood isn't family. Love is. Respect is. Safety is. And sometimes, saving yourself means walking away from the people who taught you love the wrong way. I didn't lose a family. I freed myself from one. And I'm finally home.